I never thought I would be the kind of mother who has to beg for a seat at her own son's table. Especially when I was the one who bought the table, the chairs, and the house they're sitting in. Have you ever felt like a walking ATM to the people you love most in the world? Only to realize that once the withdrawal is made, you're just a piece of plastic they'd rather toss in the trash? Was I wrong for what I did next, or would you have finally snapped just like I did? Tell me in the comments if you've ever been treated like a ghost in your own family, because what happened when my son returned from the family vacation I paid for changed everything between us forever. It all started about 6 months ago. My husband, David, passed away 3 years ago, leaving me with a very comfortable life, a paid-off home, a solid pension, and a significant inheritance that he worked his entire life to build. We had one son, Leo. Leo was our world, but after David died, I'll admit I probably spoiled him too much out of grief. I wanted to see him happy because seeing him smile was the only thing that made the house feel less empty. Leo is married to Sarah, and they have 2 beautiful children, my grandkids, Toby and Mia. For the last 2 years, I've been the primary support system for them. When Sarah wanted to go back to school, I paid the tuition. When their car broke down, I bought them a new SUV. When they mentioned they were struggling with their mortgage, I wrote a check to cover 6 months of payments. I didn't do it to control them. I did it because that's what families do. Or at least, that's what I thought. I remember the day Sarah came to me crying, because their old sedan's transmission had blown. She said they couldn't afford to get the kids to school safely. I didn't even hesitate. I drove her to the dealership that afternoon, and put down $40,000 for a top-of-the-line SUV. I remember the look of pure joy on her face, the way she hugged me and told me I was a lifesaver. I felt like I was finally filling the void David left behind. But looking back, that was the moment they stopped seeing me as a mother and started seeing me as a benefactor. The invitations to dinner started becoming requests for quick loans. And the weekend visits with the grandkids always ended with me buying a trunk full of groceries for them. It wasn't just about the money, it was the slow erasure of my identity. I was no longer mom or grandma. I was the person who paid for the organic kale and the premium cable package. I remember one specific Tuesday when I brought over a basket of toys I'd spent hours picking out for Toby and Mia. Sarah didn't even look up from her phone. She just pointed toward the hallway and said, "Just put them in the playroom, and try not to wake the kids, they're having quiet time." No thank you, no stay for tea, just a cold directive. I felt used, but I kept telling myself that I was investing in my family's happiness. I told myself that once the kids were older, they'd remember the grandma who was always there. I was buying hope, one credit card swipe at a time. Last Christmas, I told Leo that I wanted to do something special for the whole family. I wanted us to go on a luxury cruise through the Mediterranean. I'm talking the works, balcony suites, all-inclusive packages, excursions in every port from Rome to Santorini. I told him, "Leo, I want to make memories with my grandkids while I'm still healthy enough to walk those cobblestone streets." I handed him a credit card with a $50,000 limit, and told him to book everything for the 5 of us. He was so excited. He hugged me, called me the best mom in the world, and for a few weeks, we talked about it constantly. We spent hours looking at the ship's itinerary, talking about seeing the ruins in Athens and eating authentic pizza in Naples. I even bought a new set of luggage and some beautiful sundresses for the occasion. I pictured us standing on the deck, watching the sunset over the Ionian Sea, finally feeling like a family again. But as the months went by, the conversation shifted. Sarah started mentioning how small the cabins were, even the suites, and how Toby and Mia might get restless with too many adults around. She'd make passive-aggressive comments during Sunday brunch about how intimate vacations are better for children's development. She started sending me articles about the benefits of nuclear family bonding, without the distraction of extended relatives. I ignored the red flags because I couldn't imagine my own son would betray me like that. I even offered to pay for a separate cabin for myself if they wanted privacy, but Sarah just sighed and said, "It's not about the money, Mom, it's about the energy." I should have seen it coming when she started forgetting to include me in the group chats about the excursion bookings. 3 weeks before the departure date, the hammer finally dropped. Leo came over to my house alone. He looked nervous, fidgeting with his wedding ring, unable to look me in the eye. He sat me down and said, "Mom, we've been thinking. This trip is going to be really intense with the kids. Sarah's parents are also going through a hard time, and we thought it would be better if this was just a core family trip for us to bond." My heart dropped. I asked him what he meant by core family. He looked me in the eye and said, "Just me, Sarah, and the kids. And Sarah's parents are going to meet us there for the second half." I was stunned. I asked, "Leo, I paid for this. The tickets are in my name, aren't they?" He stammered, explaining that since he did the booking, he put the reservations in their names and used the extra money from my card to upgrade their flights to first class. He essentially told me there was no room for me on the vacation I had funded. He said, "You're always with us, Mom. You see the kids every weekend. We just need this space." He had the audacity to suggest that since I wasn't going, I could spend that time relaxing, at home and maybe watching their dog while they were away. The sheer lack of shame in his voice was what broke me. He wasn't even sorry, he was just managing a logistical inconvenience, which was me. I was too hurt to even scream. The betrayal felt like a physical weight in my chest. I had planned this for a year, dreamed about it, and financed every single penny of it, including the upgrades for Sarah's parents. I just told him to leave. The day they flew out, I saw the photos on Instagram. Sarah posted a picture of the four of them in the first-class lounge, sipping champagne with the caption, "Finally, the family getaway we deserved. No stress, just us. No mention of me. No thank you." They spent 2 weeks posting photos of 5-course dinners, private tours of the Vatican, and sunbathing on Greek beaches. I saw Sarah's mother wearing a designer bag I'm certain was bought on my credit card during a layover. She was posing in front of the Parthenon, wearing the very scarf I had mentioned I wanted to buy for myself. D for T. The salt in the wound was seeing Toby and Mia holding gelato that I had researched for them, smiling at a camera that I wasn't behind. Meanwhile, I sat in my quiet house, realizing that I had become a utility instead of a human being to them. But while they were sipping mimosas on my dime, I was busy. You see, David was a very smart man, and he set up our assets in a way that required my signature for almost everything Leo owned. The SUV? The title was in my name. The house they lived in? It was technically held in a trust that I controlled. I had been so generous that I forgot I held all the cards. I spent the first 3 days of their vacation crying, but on the 4th day, the tears turned into a cold, hard resolve. I sat in David's old office, surrounded by the smell of his old books, and I felt his strength. I realized that if I didn't take a stand now, I would spend the rest of my life being bled dry and then discarded. I was done being the silent partner in my own exploitation. So, that's the situation I was in. I was sitting in an empty house while my son and his in-laws lived it up on my life savings, treated me like an unwanted guest in my own life, and didn't even send a single, "Wish you were here" text. I had to make a choice. Do I keep playing the nice grandma and hope they love me again? Or do I show them what life actually looks like without my interference? Before I tell you what I did the day they landed, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have forgiven him for the sake of the grandkids? Or would you have cut the cord? I didn't just cut the cord. I pulled the entire plug. While they were in the middle of the ocean, I called a real estate agent. Since the house they lived in was part of the trust David left, and I was the sole trustee with the power to liquidate assets for personal maintenance, I put the house on the market. It was a hot market, and within 4 days, I had a cash offer from a developer. I accepted it on the spot with a 30-day closing, but with a clause that the property be vacated immediately for renovations. I also called the bank and reported the SUV as relocated. I had a towing company pick it up from the airport parking lot and bring it to my driveway. I changed my phone number and moved all the remaining inheritance funds into a private account that Leo had no access to. I even went as far as to hire a moving crew to pack up their essentials, clothes, toys, basic furniture, and put them into a prepaid storage unit for 1 month. I didn't leave a single item of sentiment behind. I worked like a woman possessed, clearing out the rooms I had painted for my grandkids, feeling a strange mix of heartbreak and liberation with every box I taped shut. I felt like I was reclaiming my life with every piece of bubble wrap I used. I also contacted my lawyer to ensure that the allowance I had been transferring to Leo's account every month was permanently stopped. By the time they were boarding their flight home, they were technically homeless and penniless. I also contacted the cruise line. Since the credit card used was in my name, and the primary booking holder was me, I had the power to flag the account for unauthorized secondary users. I didn't cancel the trip. I wanted them to enjoy every second of the luxury so the fall would be harder. But I made sure that the incidentals bill, which included all their expensive wine and spa treatments, would be settled from their personal accounts, not mine. I knew they didn't have the balance to cover it. When Leo and Sarah landed at the airport, tanned and smiling, they went to the parking garage to find their car. It wasn't there. They thought it was stolen. They called me, but my phone was disconnected. They took an expensive Uber back to their house, only to find a sold sign in the front yard and the locks changed. I was waiting on the porch of my own home when they finally pulled up in a taxi, looking disheveled and panicked. Leo ran up to me screaming, "Mom, what is going on? Our car is gone, there are strangers in our house, and I couldn't reach you." I looked at him as calm as a summer morning and said, "Oh Leo, you said you needed space. You said you wanted a core family experience without me. So, I decided to give you exactly that. I've sold the house since I'm the owner, and I've reclaimed the car since I paid for it. Your things are in storage. Since you're such a strong, independent core family, who can afford $50,000 vacations, I'm sure you'll have no problem finding a new place to live on your own dime." Sarah started crying, calling me a monster, but I just looked at her and reminded her of her Instagram caption. "You got the vacation you deserved, Sarah. Now you get the life you can actually afford." The look of pure shock on Leo's face was something I'll never forget. He tried to argue that it was his house, but I reminded him that he had never paid a single tax bill or insurance premium on it. He stood there, holding a souvenir bag from Rome, looking like a little boy who realized his safety net had finally evaporated. He tried to play the grandkids card, telling me that I was hurting Toby and Mia. I looked him dead in the eye and said, "No, Leo. You hurt Toby and Mia the moment you taught them that their grandmother is nothing more than a bank account. I'm teaching them a different lesson today: accountability." The aftermath was chaotic. They had to move in with Sarah's parents, the same parents who enjoyed the second half of my Mediterranean cruise. Turns out, Sarah's parents are broke and couldn't actually support them. Within 2 weeks, the perfect family dynamic they boasted about online began to crumble under the weight of actual bills. Leo had to take out a massive loan just to get a modest apartment and a used car. He tried to sue me for the house proceeds, but the trust documents were airtight. David had designed them specifically to protect me from being taken advantage of. Almost as if he knew Leo's character better than I did. I received dozens of hateful emails from Sarah's side of the family, but I blocked them all. I even had to file a cease and desist when Leo tried to show up at my door at 2 a.m., begging for money to pay the kids' private school tuition. I told him through the doorbell camera that if he could afford to upgrade to first class, he could afford to find a school in his new zip code. The silence that followed was the loudest thing I've ever heard. It was the sound of a toxic cycle finally stopping. We haven't spoken in months. Sometimes I miss the grandkids, and it aches to see their empty rooms in my house. But then I remember the feeling of sitting in that quiet house while they spent my money to exclude me, and I realized that peace is better than being a well-funded doormat. I realized that my love had become a commodity to them, something to be traded for a better lifestyle. By removing the money, I removed the mask. I've started volunteering at a local shelter, helping women who actually have nothing, and the gratitude I see in their eyes is worth more than any fake hug Leo ever gave me. I'm now planning my own trip, a solo tour of Japan, and this time, I'm the only one on the guest list. I'm spending my inheritance on my own happiness now, rather than trying to buy the affection of people who only valued my wallet. I've joined a hiking group, I'm learning to paint, and I've even started dating a lovely man named Robert, who doesn't know a thing about my bank balance. The moral of the story is that respect isn't something you can buy, but you can certainly stop financing someone's disrespect. I learned the hard way that blood doesn't give anyone a license to use you. If you don't stand up for your own worth, people will continue to treat your kindness as a weakness. My life is much smaller now, but it is authentic. I no longer wake up wondering if I'm enough for my son. I know I'm enough for myself. Like this video if you were on my side and think Leo got exactly what he deserved. Subscribe for more stories like this where the underdog finally takes their power back, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did I go too far, or was the sold sign the perfect ending? I'll see you all in the next story.